I'm going to take a minute, and we have a good view of the back of the switch panel with everything removed. So I'm going to go through the electric panel one more time. So we can see the top ones are what put it in series. So 24, 36, then 48 volts when all three are turned on. Right now, everything is in parallel. The bottom row of switches, everything is up. So there's a positive and a negative for each battery, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all on, so that parallels the batteries for DC charging at 12 volts. And this is the solar panel charge controller for 12 volts DC charging. Okay, we got. Just take a minute and note. So this is the bottom set screw in the lowest position. So I've got all the motor mounts set for that. NASCAR completed an extensive cleanup of the track in here, so we are almost ready to go back to racing. That's the tube the shaft goes out of. And we came down here to look at the batteries. So these are the AGM batteries. That's the location where the diesel fuel tank was. And we've got these large cables are the series cables. So this takes all the current for when we're using the motor. And these smaller ones are the 12 volt charging. And these would be battery maintainer type cables that might come with a charger. I use those to charge. I charge at very low amperages. Takes a long time to charge, but only 2 or 3 amps. All right, and then the tape is just so I know which battery is which, so I can keep it straight as we come over here to the panel to wire it. And the convention I tried to use was the large red goes to a positive on a battery, and the black with the red goes to the negative on the next battery when we're going in series. These are the back of the switches up here. And we have these little standoffs that comes down to a fuse. It's a 100 or 125 amp fuse everywhere in the series circuit. And I was concerned about that, but they don't actually blow at 125. They would blow at about twice that. So even when I run all the way up near 200 amps, which is the maximum, they won't blow. But if there was any kind of short or something, that would give some protection there. There's also a 400 amp fuse on the motor controller in that series circuit. All right, and then I used to disconnect them here all the time when I was really nervous about it. That's why there's plugs in here. I used to disconnect the 12 volt lines there to make sure that there would be no problem. But the switches and the fuses on the switches, these are fuses on the 12 volt side, have proved to be enough protection. I haven't screwed it up, so I've lost the habit of actually coming in and unplugging those when I go to series. But this bus spank down here is where all of these charge cables come together. Let's see, this fuse that's just hanging out here in the middle of nowhere, this is the solar controller. I haven't come up with a better way to handle that yet, but I don't charge with the solar controller except when I'm in port, so I haven't worried too much about that. But if this does come apart or it does blow, I've completely destroyed a solar controller by trying to put this fuse back in with voltage. So you have to disconnect the solar panel or cover it or something to get the voltage off the system. Or, well, in my case, I destroyed the charge controller. All right, but there's the back of these. Again, red would be positive, black would be negative, and in the DC system that stays that way. For being in the yard here, I have these other two cables coming in. this one and this one. The large one's coming into the bus, and that just jumps over to the house bank so that the house batteries can be on the solar panel too. And that was for storage here during the winter. I'll take all that apart when we get back to normal operation. And let's see, there should be one more connection of interest here. Yeah, this, you can see it here. It's this one and this one. The small are black and red. Again, the larger ones go to the house bank. These smaller ones go to the 12-volt battery charger, and I charge that from the shore power. So the normal mode is to get off the shore powered charger, turn off all the lower switches, turn on the upper switches, puts the batteries in series for 48 volts, and then go sailing. And when you get back, take them out of series with the top switches, go back into parallel, and then finally plug in the 12-volt charger. And it'll be charged up by the time you come back for the next sailing. This is the solenoid. I tried to keep the runs, the cables, as short as possible. That's always a concern with DC because you get a voltage drop. I haven't noticed that these are too long in any way. All these filters were put on here because I was trying to get noise out of the VHF. There was some noise, RF noise being generated by the system impacting the RF. Turned out to be the CAN bus, C-A-N, CAN bus, between the motor controller here and up to the Sevcon Clearview display. And what was required was twisting the pairs. So like this, had to twist the pairs. I twisted the power pairs as well and installed filters. That's pretty much it. This is the motor controller. This is the 400 amp fuse. And this would be the most positive and the most negative. Again, that goes to 48 volts when those top switches are all in series. These ones cross here. And that's how I did it. It's about 100 amp hours of batteries. I try to run at 20 amps. So 20 amps in an hour would be 80 amps in 4 hours. I should probably only discharge deep cycle batteries to 20%. So I look at it as 4 hours would be the max. 2.5 to 3 hours is what I've tested, and I've still had a little bit left. But because I need this system to get back into the slip, I don't like to think that I'm going to be making that final turn into the slip, and that's when I find out the batteries are dead. So I'm very conservative in the use of the system. It's usually only on for about a half hour out to go sailing and a half hour to come back in. I don't really depend on it to transit anywhere other than in and out of the marina. So.